It's 9:30 a.m. on 13th of June 1944. Michal Wittmann's rampage through Villers-Bocage has just ended, sowing chaos and destruction on the leading units of a British advance towards Caen. In the halted British column just outside the village, Lieutenant Leslie Bill Cotton of B Squadron, 4th County of London Yeomanry, is briefing his troop on the orders he has just received. Within the next few hours, they will be fighting for their lives at close quarters against a superior German force, with orders to hold the village at all costs. By the end of the day, Cotton has earned the Military Cross and a promotion to captain. His sergeant will earn a military medal, and his corporal a Distinguished Conduct Medal. But now, as they set out on a mission to re-establish contact with the isolated and under fire A Squadron, all they know is the big attack is no longer going to plan. Michal Wittmann's rampage ended after his tank shed a track after being hit by an anti-tank gun manned by members of the Rifle Brigade. He and his crew made off to Aubois, where they would report what they had learned about the British operation to Fritz Bayerlein, commander of the Panzer Division. The decisive Bayerlein moves his divisional HQ to Villers-Bocage and begins to assemble whatever forces he can find to counterattack. Wittmann's earlier actions have cut off the vanguard of the British advance, and now A Squadron 4th CLY, along with a few infantry, are isolated and under attack on point 213. Their call for assistance is answered by Major Ian Ibi Aird, commander of B Squadron 4th CLY, now in command of the battle for Villers-Bocage, as his CO is cut off on point 213 with the lead squadron. Aird sends out the CLY's Recce Troop Stewards and Bill Cotton's No. 4 Troop from his own squadron to try and outflank the German position and try and find a new route to relieve A Squadron. But by 10:30 a.m, news from point 213 is bleak. First SS infantry arrive and begin to winkle out the defenders. Then 8 Tiger tanks of Rolf Mobius's 1st Company, 101st SS Heavy Tank Battalion, appear from the east and join in the attack. It gets worse. Heading south, the CLY Recce Troop runs straight into the lead elements of the 2nd Panzer Division, who happen to be moving up into the area to reinforce the German line. The lead Stuart is destroyed after a brief engagement with the Puma armoured car, and the rest withdraw. Avoiding a German field hospital on the outskirts of Villers-Bocage, Cotton's troop are having difficulty finding their way through without being drawn into the fight. Meanwhile, Major Aird has ordered C Squadron and the remaining Rifle Brigade infantry under command to cover the town's northern approaches, and he has appealed for more infantry support to help him hold the town. Colonel Desmond Gordon of the 1st 7th Queens swiftly responds. By 11 a.m, they're taking up defensive positions near the railway station, in the town centre, and covering the main road out of town towards point 213. They deploy their anti-tank guns, concealing them in alleyways and damaged buildings. 2 troops of B Squadron tanks are deployed in support. Cotton's troop is now making its way back into Villers-Bocage, its route to the east having been stymied by a very large and steep railway embankment. His instinct tells him that a weak spot in the defence of the town lies along its main street. He decides to deploy his tanks close to the town hall, where a Queen's 6-pounder anti-tank gun has already been sighted. Leslie Cotton is a proven combat leader, having seen action with the regiment in the North African desert. British soldiers love a nickname, and he is known as Bill by his comrades because he shares a surname with the famous band leader. Because he's one of the longer-serving members of the regiment, his nickname has morphed to Old Bill, after the cartoon character, which is also painted onto his tank.
This video has been made possible by our supporters on Patreon, our YouTube members, and our super thanks donors. Please join them if you can, and support the Tank Museum. And thanks for watching. Cotton's troop consists of 2 75mm Cromwells, commanded by Sergeants Len Grant and Corporal George Horn, and a Sherman Firefly commanded by Sergeant Bobby Bramall. His Cromwell is armed with a 95mm howitzer, an anti-infantry weapon, so he places his tank at the back of the group, thinking that anti-armour weapons will be most needed. At 12:30 p.m, the CLY CO, who is with A Squadron, reports that their position is untenable and withdrawal impossible. 5 minutes later, they are overrun and point 213 is lost.
Cotton is just getting into position. He gets all his tanks to shut down their engines so he can hear any enemy tanks approach. And he waits. It's 1 o'clock. Bayerlein has managed to get together a decent-sized force for a counterattack. And now he's ready to strike.
Occupying a defensive line to the north of Villers-Bocage, he's moved 15 Panzer IVs and a ragtag force of infantry, largely drawn from divisional non-combat units, to face off against C Squadron and the Rifle Brigade. From the divisional repair depot to the southeast of the town, he's managed to get 10 Panzer IVs into the field. He has also brought up the infantry of Panzer-Lehr's escort company to join him at his Villers-Bocage HQ. With their work on point 213 complete, he now also has the SS infantry of the 101st Light Company and a further 8 Tiger tanks at his disposal. He plans to hit the town from multiple directions, so Mobius's Tiger tanks are allocated to support each thrust. The Tigers of Wittmann's company are held in reserve. The advance of the valuable Tiger tanks will be screened behind the more replaceable Panzer IVs. They will leapfrog forward when their enhanced firepower is required. The attack begins with the escort company advancing down the Tilly Road, linking up with a mixed force of Tigers and Panzer IVs and pushing on down the main street. Another 5 or 6 Panzer IVs, supported by 3 Tigers and the SS Light Company infantry, advance up the road from Ivrisi, north of the railway station.
Hidden in the side streets and alleyways, the Queen's anti-tank gunners take on and knock out their first targets, 3 Panzer IVs, 2 by the railway station, 1 in the main street. With the targets identified, the supporting Tigers now move up and knock out the anti-tank guns, confident behind their thick frontal armour.
The 3 Tigers supporting the attack near the railway station, 122, 123 and 124, push on into the marketplace, supporting an infantry advance into the town, but none will make it much further. Tiger 123 is unknowingly rolling dangerously towards Bill Cotton's exposed rear, when it is knocked out with a Piat by the War Memorial. Moving into town, Tiger 124 drives through a crossroads and presents its less well-armoured flank to an anti-tank gun hidden in an alleyway. A single shot stops it dead. Tiger 122, having manoeuvred through several back gardens, has found itself side-on in the crosshairs of the very same anti-tank gun.
With a single shot, the 3rd Tiger is knocked out and the assault from the east comes to an abrupt end.
These are costly losses, and things are about to get worse. It seems fortune is no longer on the side of the Germans. 5 tanks, 3 of them Tigers, 111 and 113 from 1st Company, and a lone Tiger from Wittmann's 2nd Company, are proceeding slowly down the main street towards Cotton's troop. They can be heard long before they can be seen.
The wait is excruciating. The Germans only advance down the street when they're sure that the buildings on either side are empty of British infantry. Cotton has dismounted and is determined to lead the attack on foot, even though it started to rain. He keeps dry by borrowing an umbrella from a nearby shop. Peeking around the corner into the main street, he keeps a watch to see just how far the Germans are advancing before he dashes back between his tanks to give further orders.
Then the first German tank appears, a Panzer IV. Perhaps expecting something, it guns its engine and accelerates before passing, as if in anticipation of avoiding the ambush that awaits it. It very nearly succeeds, catching the tank crews a little by surprise. Bramall in his Firefly and Grant in his 75mm Cromwell both fire, but Bramall's 17-pounder misfires and Grant misses at less than 30 yards. The tank rangefinders simply aren't designed to work at such close range, so from now on they will have to rely on eyeball judgment alone. The Panzer passes the ambush, and it looks like it's going to get away.
But Corporal Horn is furious and he's having none of it. He starts his tank and accelerates hard into the street behind it.
At a range of only a few feet and in plain sight of the German tanks further up the road, he fires into the rear of the Panzer IV without slowing and destroys it. Speeding past, his tank makes a sharp right turn in front of the wreck and into a side street. It all happens so fast the Germans don't get a chance to fire at him.
But in the frantic manoeuvring, Horn is thrown in front of the recoiling gun breech and badly damages and dislocates his shoulder. Only a few seconds pass before the next tank tries its luck.
This time it's Tiger 111, which attempts to speed through the danger, but now Grant and Bramall are ready, and they won't miss a second time. They fire, and their rounds, along with the shot from the nearby anti-tank gun, smash into the Tiger simultaneously. The Tiger's driver is killed instantly. Out of control, the tank lurches forward for about 30 yards before crashing into the front of a furniture shop. Cotton creeps back to the corner and looks back up the street, where he sees 2 more Tiger tanks sitting just a few yards away.
But having just witnessed the demise of their comrades, neither Tiger is eager to advance. A standoff ensues, with both sets of tank crews knowing that movement around the corner will mean almost certain death. Bramall stares intently from his Firefly for any sign of movement. Something catches his eye and gives him an idea.
Reflected in a plate glass window of a shop on the opposite side of the road, Bramall can see the reflection of the nearest Tiger. If positioned correctly, he reckons he can shoot it through the wall of the adjacent building.
He asks Cotton to take a peek to see how far round the corner the enemy is, and using that information, he guesstimates how far he has to reverse and how far he has to traverse his turret. He then opens the breech of the 17-pounder gun and takes a sighting down the barrel to make sure the height of the shot will be lower than the overall height of a Tiger tank. No doubt with his fingers firmly crossed, he then fires straight through 2 walls to where he thinks the Tiger is sitting. The building collapses into dust and rubble all around him, and he can't see a thing. He quickly reloads and fires again. Amazingly, the second shot hits the Tiger where its armour is thickest on the gun mantlet and bounces off. Surprised, the Tiger blindly fires back, but in the smoke and dust of the falling masonry, it's no idea what it's firing at or where to aim. The 88mm shell hits the already partially destroyed building, creating more debris and even more dust. Bill Cotton, crouching by the corner of the building, cannot see a thing. But he can hear the Tigers are starting to manoeuvre, perhaps trying to find out where the shot has come from, or maybe identify an escape route.
The dust and confusion presents a perfect opportunity for a Piat team from the Queens to get closer to the threat. They scramble into a house on the north side of the main street and make their way upstairs. The rain continues to fall, but this at least has the effect of damping down the clouds of swirling dust. A Cromwell tank from another troop appears at the far end of the main street, perhaps to find out what's going on at Cotton's position. The movement is quickly spotted by the now highly alert Tiger 113, which wastes no time in firing at the Cromwell and knocking it out. Now, the Piat team has managed to get into a firing position overlooking the Tiger. Peering out of a window, they fire, but score only a glancing blow to the turret. Piats are famously difficult to reload, and this one won't recock at all. Something's gone wrong with it. Realising it can't stay put, Tiger 113 quickly motors forward across the gap. Now knowing where the ambush came from, its turret is traversed and ready to fire. Bramall is ready and waiting. He gets his shot off first and it smashes into the side of the Tiger. It lurches to a halt next to the wreck of the Panzer IV. Only 2 of the crew survive.
Cotton peeks around the corner yet again. There's 1 Tiger left, but in the mayhem, it is turned round to retreat back the way it had come. Strangely though, Cotton can't hear the engine running, and it's not moving. Has it been knocked out?
Cotton signals to a couple of nearby Queen's infantrymen, and they decide to try and creep up on it from behind. Cotton joins them, still sheltered from the rain by his umbrella.
But as they get close, the engine of the Tiger roars into life. They must have been spotted, but now they're exposed and in the open.
Sergeant Bramall hears all this from his Firefly. He starts his engine and quickly pulls forward into the street. He can clearly see the Tiger as it pulls away, but it is accelerating far slower than the pursuing Sherman. Bramall has time to stop, take aim and fire before the Tiger can get very far. He hits it square in the rear, and the Tiger immediately begins to burn.
The assault is over, for now.
Quiet finally descends on the main street, although the sounds of fierce fighting from elsewhere around the town can be heard clearly. It's 4 p.m. Aird and Gordon are both confident they can hold on to Villers-Bocage.
The German attack has taken over 3 hours to make 400 or 500 yards, and they've suffered very heavy casualties for every inch.
But their persistence is starting to pay off. Gordon has been forced to commit his infantry reserve to the southern outskirts to hold off troops from the 2nd Panzer Division, whilst other elements of the Queen's are being pushed back towards the centre of the town. The Germans now hold the northern, eastern and southern approaches to Villers-Bocage, leaving the defenders rather out on a limb.
It's too risky, so at 5 p.m, Brigadier Hind, the superior officer, orders a retreat to consolidate.
But Cotton isn't ready to leave just yet. From experience, he knows the Germans excel at recovering their knocked-out vehicles and putting them back into action. He has no desire to meet any of the tanks his troop fought against today, again. He calls for Bramall to bring him a jerry can full of fuel as he gathers blankets and sheets from a destroyed shop. Then the pair go from tank to tank in the main street. They soak each blanket with petrol, then stuff it through a hatch with a lit match. Though the rain continues to fall, all the tanks are now well ablaze, and it's time to leave. Villers-Bocage is abandoned to the Germans and its propaganda machine, which hails Wittmann's great triumph and cements his reputation as a Nazi hero. But it's not the great victory the Germans claim it to be.
In the afternoon battle for Villers-Bocage, 4th CLY have only lost 3 Cromwell tanks. The Germans admit to permanently losing 4 Panzer IVs and 5 Tigers, and it may have been more.
So, while they took the town at a tank loss ratio of at least 3 to 1, including 5 precious Tigers, it was, at most, a very Pyrrhic German victory.
Bill Cotton's troop had accounted for 3 Tigers and 1 Panzer IV for no loss, and their achievement had gone a long way to rectifying the somewhat tarnished reputation of 4th CLY.
For his gallantry and the leadership of his troop in the action, Leslie Bill Cotton is awarded the Military Cross and promoted to captain. Sergeant Bobby Bramall is awarded the Military Medal.
Cotton survives the Normandy campaign, but is badly wounded in February 1945 when the jeep he is travelling in drives over a mine. When the regiment is amalgamated in August 1944 to form the 3rd 4th CLY, Bramall is commissioned in the field. He becomes a squadron commander in the new regiment and survives the war unscathed. Villers-Bocage would not be liberated until the 4th of August 1944. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and if you can, please support us on Patreon.